Welcome to Using Ancestry as a Sandbox. Many people have asked me why I use Ancestry so heavily, and so tonight I want to show a good example of that. As I ran into this particular individual chasing a tangent off of somebody that I think I'm related to, I originally thought that William here was three separate Williams, and those three separate Williams were married to Isabel, Mary, Martha, and Elizabeth. And finally I decided that he was probably the same person, but I wasn't sure, as the sources seemed to point to that, but I hadn't checked a couple of places. Now, the reason I use Ancestry as a sandbox is because, as I said, originally I chased this as three separate individuals, and then I think they're one person, but I still need to check if there's any other persons of the same name from the same area that are close in birth that actually could be a different William Darville, the husband of any one of these three people, because people had the same name. So sources point to this as being the situation, but yet any one of these could be off, because census they're off by 1 or 2 years, placing the same name, but I don't know. So things that I ran into are checking how many potential duplicates exist on Family Search. So in here, I feel that with 4 of those, that some of these might be actual duplicates and some may not be. So I looked at that. I went through and I checked each of these people. Isabella only has 1 match on Family Search, and it may be that she's not fully sourced yet. She only has 2 sources. There may be other matches, but 1 is better than none. Martha here has 3, and Elizabeth here has a lot. So typically I would open each of those in Family Search and look at the sources that they used in order to find out which ones are duplicates and which ones are definitely not. So in this window, I've got William here. This is the source when he married Martha. So this is one of those. Here's a source where Martha, the mother, is the mother of Herbert. And then another one is where Martha is the mother of Isabella. So I put those 3 together. They are 3 of the 4 that came up for William. I have not merged them yet. There's something else I wanted to see. You can run a census to see if there's another William Darville in the area, to look at all the names that came up in an area. Another thing you can do is look at, going back to William here, is look at his own sources. So here's the 6 sources for William. You can see here's the kids. It's just looking at his hints link. And I ran into this William Darville from 1843. So the birthday is definitely off, but this is a registration index, which means we can look him up in the GROW. So I looked up in the right year here, I looked up 42 plus 2, and we can see William Darville here from Wacom in 40, and we can see William Darville here in 43 from the same place. So not having gone far enough to figure out this William Darville's mother, but I'm going to take a wild guess that that's Hopcraft. I just haven't gotten that far. You'll notice in this one, there is no mother's maiden name given. I hate it when that happens. But I'm going to guess that this individual, being from the same place, might be related, but we don't know. So we're going to use Ancestry as a sandbox and add him to this. Maybe find some hints and figure out who he did marry to make sure it wasn't one of these 3 based on going down that path of hints. So there's a couple of ways you can add a person to here. One of the ways is if you click on a hint and there's multiple people listed, you can click on any of the names that are linked and change it and save it to your tree. You may or may not have done that, so for the sake of showing that, I'll click on this and just do it here real quick. So when you're in here, here's William as somebody, and this changes from yes or no to save. You click someone in your tree, and then click add new person, and that will add him to your current tree as a disconnected person. You can then go back to this hint and actually save the other people that came in that hint if they're related to him. In this case, I don't think they're related. He's a nephew, so this probably isn't going to pull back the family of Barneses. That's other people that would be added if this is someone that you're interested in chasing. So that was one path. Another path would be just to simply add a new tree, but since we think he's related, we're going to add a tree to here. So another hack that I use, and the reason I actually had brought up Isabella here in the first place, is I'll add this William as a spouse and then add that source. Now, he's not her spouse, but we're going to do it anyway. And then go break the relationship. And we know that he's about, what was it here is about January 1843 in Wacombe. So we'll pick that guy and say yes. And then we'll open him in a new window so that he's separate. I'm sorry to open so many windows. I hope it doesn't drive you crazy. I find it easier to do stuff this way. And we'll do a search and pull up this actual source. Now, the reason I did this, I should mention that, is because if you were to click on this one and review this source, he's only one person. He's not blue. So I couldn't flip the, oh, that's the wrong source. Sorry. Here. When you open the registry for birth or death, there's no blue links. You can't flip this around to save it to anywhere. To use the save as somebody in your tree, you can only say yes or no. So we're using the alternative path to have created the person first, and then we'll go in and see if we can find his birth registration. Here he is. So we'll add that source to him. And it's a good thing it says 43. Typically, I will add something to the suffix like XXX or YYY or ZZZ. Like here's one right here. That's not the one I wanted though. And that's when I'm chasing somebody who's potentially a duplicate, but I don't know. So I'll chase him down and prove that out. So we added that source to our added individual, and now we have access to him here, though he's disconnected from the tree. Or disconnected from him as far as the family is concerned. So we'll look at his hints real quick. That looked like somebody else. What I didn't check is whether or not little Missenden is actually near the Wacombe district. So that's always good to know if this might be a match. So we'll go up and use maps, type that in and see if it returns Wacombe as the district. It is. Okay, so this actually could be the same person, that being the town of his birth, because again, we use the district registration. So again, this is a way to start. In this case, he's a grandson of Hannah. Okay, this brings up the third way you can add a person. So we're going to go back. This is going to be fun. So we'll take William, we'll say yes. And remember, Hannah was the grandmother's name. So we'll save this. We don't know who the dad is. So this is how we're going to make that connection. Is we'll go back to facts. We can play with this. And we'll just add a Darville as a dad, because we don't know who it is yet. And then we'll go to his page. And we'll add Hannah as his mother. So that's another way. And what I did is I added a placeholder here as a relative that had to exist to span between the grandchild and the named grandmother. Now we can go back to here to the 1851 census, and we'll view the record, and we'll click on Hannah, and that will change this to be her information, and we'll do save to your tree, and we'll do Hannah, and there she is, and attach that record to her. So this gives her the 1851 census, and we're on her page now, and she's got hints. I'm not going to go further down this at the time, but this is one way to chase hints to find out who the original William is and who the rest of his family is, trying to figure out if he is married to one of these three gals over here or if he's married to somebody else. And it really is true that all things point to here, which is important, and that no facts contradict that, because that's one of the things you also have to show is there's nothing that contradicts that. Okay, so we'll just get rid of this for now. And this was the hints. One of the hints in here. So we look at a marriage index, and I'll click on this one and be done with this. So this was interesting that one of the hints that's in here is actually Mary Martha Morris. This is the district registration for the marriage. So that is actually our William Darville that we're talking about. And we'll add that. We see it matches here. So the 31st of October, we have another thing over here indicating that we already know. And by the way, I love this about Ancestry. They show you what facts are behind that. So this is a marriage banns, and this is the marriage, and here's the district reporting of that marriage. So that's like the hat trick. You have all three things going on there. So now we're down to 5 because we had 6. We'll close this window, though, because we're going to talk about something else. So again, I haven't merged these, but we're pretty sure that at least 3 of the 4 of the potential matches on Family Search are the same William Darville between Mary Martha Morris and the 2 kids that are registered hers. Okay, talking about tools again. Ancestry is good for hinting. It gets you hints faster. What I wanted to show you here, very important, is this is William Darville. This is our man. There are no research hints here for him. We have, I don't know, a dozen or so over here we got from Ancestry fairly quickly. We have none showing up here yet. There has to be a certain amount of information or connectivity between families for things to start showing up here. Family Search is doing a much better job. They're much faster than they used to be. They've made some changes recently. But that's why I use Ancestry as a sandbox, because I can go in different directions, prove things, change things. I can marry people and then unmarry them, which reminds me while I'm here. So we've got William still married to her. So we have to come in here and break that relationship. So we edit the relationship and remove that relationship. And so they're no longer married. Refresh the page and he's gone. So I forgot to finish that part of that step. When you add someone as a spouse, which is the cleanest way to do it, because if you add it as a child, you have to remove both parents. Then you just remove the relationship and they're somewhere in your tree and not connected. Okay, back to the grow. We used it here to find there are 2 very separate individuals. We don't know the mother's maiden name here. Later, we'll try and flesh out that family and figure out if there are any kids that did list a mother's maiden name here, and that way we would know. The other thing I wanted to show you is running the grow index against these families. Something that really, really sticks out to me is the first wife, Pierce, shows up. She is here, and 2 of the kids show up with her. But Isabella Eunice shows up here, born in 64. We know she was born in 64, and we know that they didn't get married till 67. So this record over here in Family Search that has her and created this record for Isabella Eunice was made from extraction and was done from a christening record, but that's not really her birthday. So if we go to Isabel, she may show here on 1837, but looking at the vitals, we don't have her birth. Okay, they're just going off a christening record. So what I'm saying is this Isabel is not the daughter of Mary Martha. She's actually the daughter of Isabella Pierce. The other thing that I found in here, as I tried to find the mothers in the Grow Index as well, as you know, Isabel was born in 36 before the Grow came out, so I couldn't find her. But moving to Martha Morris, I see her kids, Mary Martha Datson Darville. It was interesting to pull up her Grow Index to find out her mother's maiden name is Datson, which makes all sorts of sense that she would have passed that on to her first children. And then Elizabeth Syrid, and this is the path that I actually came in when I ran into William here, was that these two kids are definitely her, and she came through, her mother's maiden name is Way, and that's the path that I actually ran into this whole family. So now we need to make the correction. We just talked about family relations as we modified Isabel and removed her husband we threw on there. So now we have to go in and change who her mother is. So we'll go to Edit Relationships and remove Mary Martha, who, as I said, shows up in every source on her page here as being her mother. And we'll add in the person we know, Pierce, and there she is. And we'll pick her as the mother. And then close that and go back to Dad's page and refresh. And she'll move up here. And so we will go back and correct family search and move Isabel to her correct mother and make sure that we post this information in the collaboration. So I won't bore you with actually merging all the Williams, but I will post in the surviving person this information up here and then this specific information in each of the mothers to show that the kids that they had. So again, this is why I use multiple tools and the reason I take notes as I do this so that I can use this information to help source family search. This is important because if you don't figure out who William Darville is and you don't figure out the William Darville from 1843 as being a separate individual and making sure he's sourced and married to the right person, then someone may come along and actually merge those two, and it would be an incorrect merge. That happens quite often when people aren't fully sourced, and it just becomes an easy merge to take place. And if you don't source it, it's just easy to say, yeah, it must be the same guy. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.